record on this computer. Okay, now we are official. What's up, everybody? Welcome to NLI weekly meeting where we plan the takeover of world domination for Intactivists for the future of all humanity, to end the genital cutting of all children of all sexes for all bogus reasons. So that's the goal. What we do, NLI is a group of organized, dedicated, educated, activated Intactivists. What I mean by that is we show up to meetings, we plan things, we organize, and we do work on our own. So we volunteer. We take our time out, we volunteer. So we work to enhance each of our own potential, utilizing the skills and talents of our volunteers. We're going to talk a lot about how we can, different ways of volunteering tonight. I know NLI recently has been a lot about just database gathering, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 type of stuff with the outreach programs, but there's so much other stuff that we need to be doing beyond that. So I'm going to go talk about what that is tonight. And again, this is going to be recorded. We'll be sharing this on YouTube so people can follow along with us. Okay, so we want to give volunteers opportunities. We want to organize, plan, and carry out educational outreach for high value targets. That's one of our main things, but we also have other opportunities we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, so announcements, opportunities for volunteering. So every meetup, this is kind of our new organization now, but for every meetup, we're going to have an opportunities for volunteering. So these are immediate volunteers that I could really use right now. We're going to do this every meetup until I get these filled. And I probably won't bring, once I get these filled, then I'm not going to be bringing these up again. But anyways, personal assistant, this is a personal assistant that can help me with maximizing my potential to work with all the other volunteers that I'm doing. And this is going to help me so much if I can have somebody that can literally help me as a personal assistant. Personal assistant has to be able to, if I say to them, hey, I need you to put something on a website, they need to be able to do that. So they have to be able to learn WordPress. So I will teach them WordPress web design. They have to be willing to learn MailChimp. So they have to learn how to send out emails and create the emails in MailChimp. And they must be willing to eventually learn HitFilm video editing. HitFilm is a free video editing software that is phenomenal. I can teach you how to do that. They want to help me with tracking meeting attendees, so any meeting attendees, help me with organizing volunteers, help me with promoting meetings and various NLI activities, help me organize, help keep me focused, and meet with me every week for 30 to 45 minutes individually. So if I could, if any of you can help with that, that would be awesome. NLI Print Committee. The committee's goal is to have general flyers in hand. So general flyers in everybody's hands so that everybody can be handing out these flyers immediately, every Intactivist. Personally, I would love to have this right now. I'm actually don't have any myself. So every Intactivist should have flyer and print materials on hand. Use existing print materials as guide. Graphic designer, they don't have to really be a graphic designer, but the main thing is I want them to help me with, with getting all the basics, all the background set up. So with a print, the major thing that I would need somebody that heads a print committee is to basically go out and find where the best printing deals are, where we can get really cheap print deals. They're going to organize Intactivists that want to have print deals. They're going to have their addresses on file. And then when those Intactivists need those print materials, we'll send them out to them. Our goal is to have this set up so that Intactivists that are doing the print committee, they will basically be the ones that are making sure that everybody has, the right thing. Okay, the next one would be the sales and copywriters. Okay, so anybody that does sales and copywriters, anybody that's good with convincing or persuasion or just even educated in this area. So any sales and copywriters definitely need those. Mutilators accountability projects and how you can contribute. This is the next thing we're going to talk about. Who's helping with this? So she's already the committee head, I guess you could say, of the Mutilators accountability project. So basically what this is, it's very, very, very simple. We want to keep track of all the weirdness that we hear, all the sick things, all the demented things, because I think that every human being deserves the right to know the truth about what was said behind this and how this ended up in their life. So if you're a kid and 20 years from now, you deserve to know what your mother said about this. And if people try to tell her, talk to her, to talk her out of it. So You deserve to have that that knowledge, right? And also, we are going to use this for psychologists and sociologists to make, in the future, there will be those people that want to study this. And so we're going to use this as a tool for them to go back in time and see all the weirdness that was said. And so they can analyze these people and kind of figure out how we can prevent such weird psychosis being perpetuated through large groups of society. So anyways, basically this is how this works. You're going to have a date. So every 2002, I've been keeping these since 2015. And so basically you go here and, I started keeping track of these and I didn't really have it organized, but now I have it organized. And you can see it's a lot organized, but this is 2017, 2018. And you can see I started getting a lot more in here. And 2019. Anyways, these are going to be saved. And then one day we will share these with the children of these people. We'll contact them and share them and let them know. And this will be a time when, of course, this will be more out in the open and it'll be a lot easier to talk about. It won't be so taboo. And our volunteers will have smashed through the cultural ignorance of our society. Okay, so anyways, that's how this is going to work and what people need to do. And I will make a website for this. And I apologize, I don't have it right now, but I'm going to put that in the description of this video. So if you go to the description of this video, you'll see a link to the web page where you can upload images that are related to this project. Here's what you need to do in order for us to make this work. We have to know as much information of this person as possible. Okay, so each of these folders, if you go in here, and I'm not sure how well each one is designed. Some of these have more than others. Let me try to find a more extensive one, but this will have like their, I don't want to pull this up on any one person because I don't want to, put them on blast. I guess their names are right here, whatever. So anyways, that person you want their profile name, if they have family and friends, where they live, the child's name. If you can find the child's name, that will make the future of this project so much better and easier and more effective. The child's name is key to everything, but it's not necessary because, of course, you're just be able to find the parents in 20 years and their kids' name are going to be linked to them, right, in 20 years. So even if the kids are not linked to them right now, we will be able to find them in the future. So don't worry about it if you can't find it, but if you can find the kid's name, scroll back through their feed and try to find anything that says congratulations, or pull up pictures of their kids and then get their names. So you just want the names of the kids. This isn't something weird stuff. We're waiting till these kids are adults. We're not going to contact any kids. This is only going to be for adults. So this is when they are adults. Okay, so that and they're that's when this information will be shared with them. Okay, this gives us a little bit of leverage we don't typically have. So here's how I envision this benefiting us currently. If you are in a debate with a cutter, right, and you're talking to somebody and this person is, saying something and you can say, look, would you say this to your child? What if your child was here listening to you? I'm going to save this information. We have a project. It's a 20-year project. We're dedicated. We are committed. We have this shared across multiple platforms. So even if one person loses the files, this will be shared repeatedly through at least 4 or 5 different users. So that's the future plan. So we're going to have Intactivists that all hold on to all of these data. So if, say, for one of us, something happens to one of us, this will continue on and be something for the future. So anyways, you can use this as leverage to say, do you really want to say these horrible things, about your son when you're going to be saying these things to him in the future? I mean, it's just a tool you can use. But anyways, that's the Mutilators Accountability Project. Like I said, if you want to contribute to this, there's going to be a web page directly for this. You need to have all the contact information, the names, like I said, if you can find the child's information, if you can get about us, where they're located, all that information, because that's how we're going to contact the child in the future. So that's the Mutilators Accountability Project.
Can I ask a question about your folder?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm new. I'm Julia. I'm new
hi.
to your Zoom call.
Okay,
I'm
for sure.
Intactivism. I've been protesting Intactivism since I want to say like 2015 or something like that, 2014.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
Um,
joining us. Thank you, Julia.
Thanks.
Good to have you.
Yeah, I personally, like, I was doing stuff on Facebook and it was just so exhausting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I personally, like, I just don't have the energy to be trying to debate with someone online. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten so much more I don't know if I want to say like success, but like it just feels better to me when I'm doing it in person on the street. There's more people who come up to you who are like, yeah, like I'm with you. Or
Mm-hmm.
like people from like out of the country, like they're like, what's this
Absolutely.
all about? And they have no idea that it's a routine horrible thing that's done to baby boys. I'm curious though, because I recently had a child of my own, and
Congratulations.
thank you. She's
Congrats.
10 months old.
Well, congratulations.
I'm always so happy when I hear it's a she.
Oh, if it was
Well,
a
with Julia, it would have been fine.
Yeah, with you it would have been fine.
I was like, if it was gonna be a boy, it was either gonna be like he was gonna be intact and proud, and if it was a girl, then she's gonna be like totally accepting and like knowing about like
So she's
mommy
educated.
volunteer work with Intactivism.
Right on.
So
She's gonna be a new Intactivist in the future.
yeah, so I haven't been like super active because of the pandemic, but I had a question because one of your folders was about Ina May Gaskin, and she's known for I don't know if I want to say like home birthing, or she's
She
like,
was like the mother of all doulas and midwives and those types of groups, and she taught like home birth. There's a lot of
She was
good
a
that she
pervert,
did do.
right?
yeah, I read a book. I read her book that was like about like how helping like how to do childbirth and stuff. So I was curious why you had a folder that was titled her name.
Is she the one who did her own
She
son by
she
herself?
circumcised her own son.
Yeah. Oh God, she's a
Yeah.
disaster.
Talk about home birth. Yeah.
No idea.
She wanted to. She's a really big hypocrite. It's really sad that she's one of those people I would love to expose a little bit more of, because most people don't. But she's we have you kind of brought this up. We have a project right now for midwives and doulas, and so what we were doing is we're contacting large number. We created a database. I know you're new, so I'm going to kind of tell you what we've been doing, right? So I have a large group of different databases. One of the databases is for parenting groups. One is for media. I have like 7 different states in the United States, completely, almost all the media that we can find online, all their contact information gathered, and we're going to start running campaigns to them in the future. We might talk about a little bit of campaigns, but I want to get more into the volunteers tonight, the other volunteer work tonight. But as far as the midwives and doulas campaign, we're gathering a big group of database on that. The biggest one, we're gonna do one in New York and one in California, and so that's really exciting, because you don't have to be on the street corner. I mean, the COVID thing is really hurting us with street corner protests. And I agree, like the social media is dead as far as when you're on social media, you're just circular arguing. I mean, Twitter is pretty cool because you get to talk to more people, I think, but Facebook, the algorithms are very limited. And a lot of people just get that really bad feeling from social media. All these things that we're talking about with the Mutilators Accountability Project, this is the stuff that nobody wants to read, nobody wants to hear. These are horrible things that mothers are saying about their children, or, it's just stuff that is just horrific things to even think about. And, I don't really want people wallowing in that stuff, but these are for the people that are doing that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to have this as a resource for them, because if you're online and you're debating these cutters, that gives you just a little bit of, hey, you know what? This is something we can do. I know I can say I could say really horrible things about you. It may not hurt your feelings whatsoever at all. It may make no change whatsoever. But if I say, look, I'm going to, share this with your child in 20 years, that's something that's just a little bit of leverage. And it's also developing the most important thing is, I think, is it's really developing a ability for these children to know what their parents said. Like I would like to know if somebody approached my mother and said, hey, do you know the functions of the foreskin? Do you know it's harmful psychologically? Do you know it messes up the sex organs of a child for literally no reason? And if she was told this and she denied that information, I would really want to know about that. I would really want to know about this, because me and her relationship would be completely different right now.
We started something like that a bunch of years ago, a site where we could document that we have contacted these people, put down shots of the comments, and we would tell them, like, listen, we have a system, your kid's going to know about all these things that you're saying, in the hopes that it would, maybe persuade them not to. Julia, with Facebooking, I went through the exact same thing, and that's so common. What I would always think is, I'm not debating the parent so much as the audience. I want the audience to be able to see and read, debate, and who do they think has the better argument. So
yeah, you're planting seeds too.
Watching it, I know I'm not going to probably convince the parent. I hope I do. I try to be as nice as possible and not argumentative, which doesn't always happen, but that's the way I look at it. If you make a juicy thread, lots of friends are going to come in. They might come in and be defensive of the mom, but at least they'll be there reading and becoming educated. So
yeah, I mean, it's got some value to it. I mean, it's just one little thing. It's definitely not the end all be all to everything that we're doing. So we have so many other things. Let's get into that. Mutilators Accountability Project and how you can contribute. Like I said, there's gonna be a link in the end of this in the description of the video, and you can go in there and you can contribute to these screenshots that you get and send it to us. We will categorize it. We're going to share it between at least 5 different computers, and we're going to perpetuate this for 20 years from now. So we're going to keep building this little database. Right now, we're going to use Dropbox Online, so anybody can. So that way, we're going to share between the people that are involved in this. Okay, so anyways, volunteer organization of NLI. Now, this is kind of where I was when I first started doing this. I was thinking, what can we do? How can we organize? How can we extend our reach? How can we give Intactivists things to do? There are literally thousands of highly motivated Intactivists, right? How many of us really care about this issue? Because this is such an important issue, because obviously you guys know all the reasons, but I'm just going to say them. This psychologically damages children, and this harms our society. This harms our experience, what we get to experience in society. There's nothing this hasn't affected in the world that we experience today. So the psychological damage carries and perpetuates itself into societies in ways that we'll never really understand or even grasp. And that's another reason why I want that Mutilators Accountability Project, because I want sociologists and psychologists and people in the future to read these things. It's kind of like we get, like, you maybe you found a statement of some horrific slave owner back in the past, and you read that, you're like, oh, that's jarring. I can't believe people thought like that. And that's what this is about. It's kind of creating that. Okay, so anyways, this can lead to, okay, let me go back here real quick. So personalities of Intactivists. The reason why this is important is because we're all so different. This is about keeping unity, right? So I want to kind of head off any issues that our group could have in the future. And so this is kind of like my disclaimer. Okay, so most Intactivists are vocal and prone to motivated. Most Intactivists who are vocal and prone to motivated tend to be alpha, highly individualistic, and passionate, right? This can lead to internal strife and disagreement. We cannot afford to have internal disagreements erode the structures we are creating. So we need to focus on solely Intactivism. So in working in our volunteer organization, you don't need internal arguments about things such as vaccines, abortion, or vegan issues, even though you may be passionate, and we need to keep our eye on Intactivism. That is what brought us together. This is the most important issue we are facing. This has far more insidious and long-lasting effects on the victims and their loved ones than we could even contemplate or we even recognize in our society. Even I'm talking Intactivists who've been doing this for years, still have a hard time understanding how hard this is or how damaging this is. Okay, so keep your disagreements away from your Intactivist work. Please, don't bring that here. Okay, so remember, every Intactivist is an amazing person who's strong enough to stand outside the norms of our society, risking acceptance in their social group. So everybody that you meet who's an Intactivist is a very brave person. Okay, so respect them. They have jumped out of their social norms and they're an eclectic group of people. So the collectiveness and the uniqueness of Intactivists can also breed those types of interpersonal conflicts. Okay, so egos recreated this mess. We need something better to get rid of it. It's kind of like Einstein said, if you're going to try to create change, you have to, utilize a higher level of consciousness than that created the problem in the first place. So if ego created this mess, let's keep our egos out of this and keep it all about just volunteering. Okay, so we have a bunch of different committees. Let me just show you some of the committees ideas that I have. Okay, so here are the different committees we could have. Like I talked about the print committee already. Intactivist Historical Society. This would be a group of us who keep track of all the history, for instance, who was the first Intactivist and, what do they do and all the different Intactivists. And this person would keep track of the history of Intactivists so that we can recognize future Intactivists. Mutilators Accountability Project, kind of talked about that. Doctor Accountability Project, Nurse Outreach Project, Protest Action Committee. A Protest Action Committee would be, like somebody that would, be able to answer questions for a protester. Let's say you have a protester in Minnesota who's, curious about the laws in Minnesota, or you have a protester in Missouri or one in California. So this would be a person who would be a go-to person about protest action, about protests. They would also plan out future protests. For instance, universities or political events or themed events. They would probably work with different Intactivist groups like, cockfight.org or maybe even Bloodstained Men if they would work with us or any of those types of things. Okay. Education Action Committee. This is a committee that would work with developing education programs for Intactivists, which we have been talking about, which we will do. That will actually be part of our weekly meetups as soon as we get to there. What I envision is for the current stage right now is that we need to get more of our outreach campaigns written and completed. And then once we have a series of those going, and then we're running into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of our different programs, as that's going, once that gets started, then we're going to do the Intactivist education system. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a series of videos for Intactivists so they can go online and they can just watch a series of 10 videos, and it's going to give them all the information that they need to know. For instance, the history, they need the different, how this affects us psychologically, the different studies, the psychological studies, the medical studies, how to unpack the HIV, the ridiculous HIV studies, if you know that there's lead time bias and researcher bias and that, the people that in the studies that were circumcised, they brought them back and gave them more education and condoms and stuff like that. So this was, if you can unpack these, you should be able to answer any question once you've gone through this basic Intactivist education plan. And so that I envision as just a way of, enhancing what we do as all Intactivists. Okay. So these are just different ideas. Another one, for instance, the Scientific Research Committee. This would be, especially we're going to European sexologists, neurologists, and histologists, and saying, hey, neurologists in Europe, hey, why don't you map out the neurology of the male penis? You could be the next. This is the final frontier of anatomy, right? Like, what do we have? Recently, there was this new part of your digestive system that was determined to be a new organ. It's the mesentery. I don't know. Anyways, this is like the missing link, the missing thing of anatomy, right? So if you want to have your name in a future book in the future history, like Sorrells and Taylor, Cold and Lockwood, this is something to study. You could we could convince people to redo MRI, the Dr. Sonari's MRI study, and get that published. We could convince people to redo Sorrell's study, and anyways, I think there's a lot of research that needs to be done, in particularly MRIs of a intact man versus a cut man orgasming. These are something that's so simple that could be done immediately, very low cost, that would be extremely powerful for us. I have all the science and stuff, but like this is stuff like I shouldn't be having to share something from 1989 on the histology of the penis and only having one doctor in all of human history actually having taken a microscope and aimed it at the foreskin. Like that, we literally got science, kits when we were 8 years old that had microscopes on it. So how can we not have more than just one study of this tissue. Anyways, so these are just some ideas of different committees. All these committees can be adjusted, changed, added to, taken away. These are just, right now it's just like stimulating conversation, right? Stimulating your own thoughts about this. What were you saying, Justin? I'm sorry. I
was
just wanna
saying
finish that thought.
we would have to target foreign specialists for that. American.
I agree.
Exactly. Well, I mean, just imagine if we go to a European sexologist and you say, hey, there's a big body of research that's missing, and a person can make a name for themselves by approaching this. You can really literally etch your name in history if you're a scientist about this issue.
You know,
Literally.
and what Americans say when you talk to them and you say, well, what about these European researchers? They'll say, well, they say that because they're anti-Semitic. That's their response.
Well, I mean, any of those types of arguments can be just literally just smacked down so easily when you're, I know you can do it, but so there's always going to be so weak arguments against anything. But like, I mean, I just say, we need a histology studies, and we need more fine touch sensitivity studies. We need more subjective studies on educated intactive men, like the one that they did, what was that one called? Anyway, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. The one that they did, the study of circumcision harm. That was a really good study. Anyways, just some thoughts. So online troll groups, I guess, I'm already doing that. Aren't we all doing that, right? Okay, a legal team, that kind of, they would, work up with might meet up with the protest team to help the protest team to make sure that the protest team is doing everything legal, right? These teams can communicate between each other. They can, link up together, so these are just the ideas. Let me go back to here. Okay, so basically what I view as this is we would have heads of committees and groups. So for this reason of the diversity of the people, we want kind of a target head of each group or each committee that's just going to be the one that's communicating with me. So they're going to be saying, hey, this is what's going on with our group and we need to organize this. And they're going to be working with my personal assistant when I get one, if I do get one, and all that kind of stuff. And then, so we're probably going to want to do some sort of, election process. So initially it'll be self-volunteers. So if you have a volunteer or one of these groups you want to head, by all means, let's talk about it. I am open and willing for everybody to jump in here and kind of take a leadership position or just to contribute in any way that they want to. And that's the thing about volunteers is that we need to meet volunteers where they need to be met, right? I mean, if you have a skill or a talent that you want to use, we want to make sure you're using that skill or talent. Anyways. So voting every year, we might have like a voting once a year. If we have a problem with the head of a committee, we might vote more than once. I would just say that's everybody's that's in the committee that says, hey, I'm interested in this committee. And if you remember, if you've done our volunteer questionnaire, there's a list of different committees that you might be interested in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find all the people that are interested in those committees. I'm going to link them up and say, okay, you guys are now a group, let's make this happen. Okay. Currently I'm the acting president only because this is my current plan. I would love to be, to eventually get this all set up and then just let somebody else run this, maybe like somebody that's, got a PhD or something that's really, about organizing or, more qualified or whatever you want to call it. So eventually I would like to get to the stage where this is something bigger than just myself or myself acting as president. And even to the point where we could have an election where somebody, we vote to a new president. Okay.
I have a question. Sorry, Daniel.
No, go ahead, Julia.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in San Diego.
Okay. Thank you. I'm in
Jersey.
I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. A lot of really good, awesome Intactivists up in the Bay Area.
Yeah. I've stood on the line with all of them.
Yes, that's awesome. I've been there. I was at the 15th annual genital right, child's right. Anyway, that was in San Francisco, and there was Marilyn Milos and Brother K. A bunch of people were there. Yeah, it was awesome. Let's see, who was it? I'm so bad with names. I'm so bad with names, but yeah.
I've
Did
done
you give it
Um,
to me, Jonathan?
protest at the Ferry Building. That's like
What's
the
that?
best place to protest is the Ferry Building in San Francisco.
Oh, is it it's the best place or the?
It's the best because there's like so many different tourists come there. There's
Oh
all
yeah,
kinds
yeah,
of
yeah.
people. So you'll get like people from all over the world will come there and they're confused. They don't know what's going on, what we're doing there. And there's just so many people that come there. It's just good conversations and
Yeah, any place like that, that is like San Francisco is such a perfect place. I mean, I think any place is a perfect place, but when you have a place where you have a group of people that are aware of many other things, they tend to be more easily aware. They tend to, it tends to be more easily to break into their conscious about this issue when they're aware of all these other issues and they're saying, wait, the world's really messed up. Okay, I can accept one more issue. You know what I mean? As opposed to, being in the Midwest or something like that. So there's good sides and there's bad sides to that. But I think that starting in the West is a really powerful thing, and that's why we wanted to do the Midwives. The next Midwives and Doulas is in California or Oregon and Washington. I also have the whole entire state of California media outlets almost completely done. That's almost every email, phone number, online contact form, social media account you can find for reporters, media outlets, producers, editors, publishers of large amounts of media outlets. So that's something that we can use for all these programs that we're doing, and we can outreach to those. So when we start running the campaigns, and we're sending out these campaigns, and these lists start to get more information. We're gonna start. It's kind of like building a snowman. You're gonna build bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it becomes easier and easier and easier. Well, with the when we start the doulas and midwives, when we've gotten all of the doulas and midwives in California completely filled out, we've got that database well developed, then we're going to start running campaigns to the media and saying, hey, we've got this campaign going to the doulas and midwives, and here's the education. This is what the campaign's going out to, and this is some of the feedback we're getting, and this is some of the conversations we've had, and this is what doulas are saying. And we're going to have, let me mention something real quick about that. We're going to have the doulas and midwives outreach program. We're going to have a web page, and I don't know if I'm going to, I think Franny Max might have one right now. I'm going to try to piggyback on hers. One of the major things is I don't want to recreate existing structures. Okay. Like I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to redo work that's already been done. So any work that's already out there, I'm going to try to piggyback on top of that. So, that's just a thought. But anyways, we're going to have a list of doulas that are intact friendly. Okay. And then we're also going to have a program eventually that will have a certification for doulas and midwives. So they can say, hey, we're certified in this. So what they would do is we're going to take the Intactivist education plan, and we're just going to roll that over into a certification program for midwives and doulas. And then midwives and doulas that have gone through our program, we can say you're certified. And then it gives them some legitimacy, and they can use it as a selling point. And like I said, eventually, this will become a selling point for mothers of the future. They will be searching out intact, friendly doulas and midwives who are educated in this issue. Right? Maybe not right now, but as we start to break into the minds of these people, I think that just by starting the midwives and doulas program, we're going to instantly save people immediately. And that's why it's so imperative we get some of these projects undergoing and functioning, because I am just so many things going on, trying to do all this stuff, and like I'm trying to create the education plan, and I'm filling in the website as I go along. So like there's going to be a lot of new information going on to the education. Like if you go to my NLI website, you're going to see new information going into the education plan there. Anyways, so with volunteers, initial questionnaire is a best placement. And like I said, there's a questionnaire that I have online that is for all volunteers. And the goal is to find out like what special skills they have. For instance, they have special skills that would be valuable. For instance, good writer, science buff, website design, graphic design. Quick note, you do not have to have any special skills to help us. And we will have anybody can help us, whether you can just sit on a computer and do, go on a web page, or whether you're a good writer or a good speaker, whatever you want to do, we can meet you anywhere you can be met. How much time per week, per month do you have to contribute? What I don't want to do is have a few really good Intactivists burn themselves out by overextending themselves and just getting, oh, I can't do this anymore because I don't have enough time. What I want them to do is figure out the time that they can fit in their schedule and then work with that time. But we do need dedication, and the people that we do want to work with, if they're just dragging and they're not pulling their weight, they're not doing the things that they say that they're going to do, we're just going to cut them away because it's just going to drag us down. Okay, so what keeps you motivated, and what can your fellow Intactivists do to help you be better and be at your best? So we're here for Intactivists, all Intactivists, to make you better, to help you, to give you options so that you're not just stuck on Facebook, having these hideous conversations. Because when you're talking with, like my experience when I started running the phase 3, which is the tele-intactivism, right? We actually make the phone calls. So the list is the database, phase 1. Phase 2 is a campaign. You send the campaigns to the database. They're educational campaigns. Phase 3 is the phone calls. Once the list has gotten that information, we make the phone calls. We will have tele-intactivism. When I've talked to educated people, for instance, reporters, and when I was doing this for the media, the reporters that I talked to, now, first off, they're educated. They actually have a degree, right? And most of them have been through journalism school. They're good listeners. They know how to flesh out a story. They know how to do research. They know how to critically question. Most of them have taken philosophy courses and sociology courses. And so these are the cream of the crop when you're talking about talking to people. When you meet somebody on the street, you don't know what you're going to get, right? And I look at it this way. Who do I want to focus my target on, right? If I go out and I spit into the ocean, okay, what wave am I really causing? But if I take a stick of dynamite and I place it in a pond and I blow that dynamite, then every fish in the pond is going to know about it, right? So I want to find high value targets that have influence: reporters, midwives and doulas, injury lawyers, child psychologists. These are different groups that we're going to be talking to. And then when you go and you talk to them, it's completely different. It's not the same as talking to somebody on the street, or debating with the cutter mother who's committed to cutting online, and saying, oh, I would never go down on an intact man, that's disgusting. And just the things that you hear, just these horrible things, you're like, you know what I mean? Those things go away. It's a different level of Intactivism, and it's phenomenal. I can't wait for us to get there, because what I want to do is I'm recording these, and what I would do is I would record these. And of course, sometimes if you record them, you have to ask them for permission. But anyways, so ask them for permission if they allow you to record this. A lot of these recordings you can share, with other Intactivists. I mean, this is gonna be stuff that we're gonna be pushing on YouTube. And once you start, like, I've got some of these recordings that I've already done in the past, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change their name and their sound a little bit. And it's just, man, just having a phone conversation with some of these people, it's phenomenal. Like, it's just, like I said, it's different. Okay, so volunteers can choose whatever group they want to work with. Volunteers who interfere with the smooth function of the group will be removed from the group. This should be decided between the president and the group head. And if due to interpersonal conflict, can be asked to switch groups. These are just, basic structural organization of an organization to maximize our outreach and potential, and to influence as many volunteers as we can. So that's kind of like the backbone ideas. I don't expect this to be like, 6 months from now, we're going to have a bunch of organizations functioning, but, maybe 3 months from now, having 1 or 2 of these, organizations up. If somebody could help me get that print committee up and functioning, help me with finding the best places to do the printing, help me with, I know I can do all that stuff, but I'm just like got so much other stuff I'm doing. So anything that can help me to maximize my potential, it will be very great. Will be very greatly appreciated. Okay, so that's kind of it with the volunteer stuff. Any thoughts, ideas, contributions, anything you guys have to add on this?
I would say, as far as with volunteers go and the amount of time they can put in, I would structure it in a way so even if they put in like a minimal amount of time, even if they give you an hour a week,
that's perfect.
Maybe make a small amount of phone calls or something and get those checked off the list. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's going to be, I think, 90% of the people who would be willing to do something like that, but not give a huge commitment. You know what I mean? So that might be a good way to get.
let me show you something real quick that we were doing as far as tracking it. And it's not 100% yet because we kind of had some, it's like I said, this is like building a snowman, right? And I'm still trying to pack that little bit of snow together, and it's still crumbling in my hands, but I'm still packing it. And I know this, I've done this before, it'll be fine. You know, we'll get the volunteers, they will come, you know, this is too powerful. And I want to keep this as loosely organized as possible. I want people to have their own agency. I want them to contribute. I don't want them to feel like this is some, you know, like we're, you know, forcing them to do something. I want motivated people. Like, you know what I mean? Like we come up here and we're going to show up to a meeting, you know, because we care that much. We're going to go and we're going to get online, because the thing is like, okay, if you're a committee head or you're doing this stuff, you know, there's going to be some stuff that, you know, is not really exciting, right? Like the phone calls is fun. Like I love the phone calls, but it's not really exciting for me to sit there and gather 1,200 media outlets in the state of California. It took me almost a year to do it, but I did it. You know, it's not really exciting and fun, but I still did it. So we need people that are, you know, I don't need people that are going to be like me. Like I quit my job making $80 an hour. I make $15 an hour. And I do this basically for a living. I do Intactivism as a security guard because I can sit here and spend a lot of time doing nothing. So I do this. So anyways, but I mean, but for a person that has, hey, I got like 15 minutes a night, or I got an hour a week, or I got, you know, something like that. Like we want them to have options too, right? And so that's what this is about. Like it's creating a system that somebody could jump in and jump out. It's creating a system that gives somebody, hey, I want to jump into something and I want to get busy with something. They can have that option too. You know what I mean? Like it's up to the person themselves. You know, it's about giving them the free will and agency to create whatever they want within, you know, if I look at it this way too, if you have a great idea, and we all have had these great ideas, like I'm not the originator of a lot of these ideas that I've written down here. A lot of these come up from somebody else, but we've thought about these, but they've come across our head and we just sit there and we do nothing, right? How can we? Like, what are you going to do? Like, unless you got 15 people that are going to say, hey, let's do this, let's get together, let's make a meeting and let's do all this. You don't really have a system. You don't have an organization. You don't have somebody like me that's going to sit there and give you that support, right? Like, okay, well, am I going to start creating this by myself? And there's not going to be much to it. But if I realize that I'm a group within a group of other Intactivists and they're committed and they're doing things, and that's what I was going to show. Let me do this new share. Okay, so this is the tracking system. Okay, and this is the tracking for outlets. So for Lee, as you can see right here, has been following along. Look at, so total track, Lee's already done 100, right? Lee is helping me with the Midwives and Doulas database in New York, right? So she's helping me with New York, the New York database. Let me show you that. It's a really exciting. Here's the Midwives, the New York, the NLI Doulas and Midwives of California, right? So here's, like for instance, Midtown Birthing. Here's the website. Here's the phone number. Here's the email. Here's a fax number. Check this out. Here's an online contact form. I mean, I can pull these up, right? And these are immediately, so I can contact all these, I can copy and paste all these online forms into a page and then quickly open these up in my database and then just quickly go through these. A lot of times sometimes my email will fill these out. This is a new computer, so it's not filled out right. I can get my computer to fill these out and put all this in, and I just copy and paste the campaign that we're sending right here.
It's just some of those forms don't have some have varying different sizes for that field where you try to type.
Yeah, good point. And the reason, so what we do is each campaign is going to have a certain number of letters. Some of these will have a certain number of letters that you can only go over, and so you're going to have like each campaign will have one written out for 500 characters, one written out for 250 words, one written out for 500 words, one written out for 1,500 words. There's a bunch of different ones. So you make the big one and then you shorten. The last one, which will be the least amount, you're going to have just a link to the blog, which will, all of these campaigns will be on my blog. So every campaign that we're going to write, the first campaign is already on my website right here, and it's hold on. This is my home page here. This is my blog. Oops. Let me pull up my blog real quick. So this is the blog, and this is this is where we're going to start with the Fgm campaign. Okay, the Fgm campaign is going to be a series of emails. We can talk about this a little bit too as we get into this. The series of emails that's going to go out. The reason why we chose the FGM is these are psychologically planned. The reason why we're going to do FGM first is FGM is already a parcel with people's minds. They've already developed a part of their mind that is aware of how bad and disgusting it is, right? Well, in psychology, if I can associate two things together as opposed to trying to create a new idea of one thing, it's a lot easier. So if I can associate these two things, well, how am I going to associate these two things when they're separated by these massive myths in our society? Well, first off, I'm going to use a clickbait campaign. So I say, Doctor mutilates close to 100 little girls, genitals in the U.S., gets off scot-free, feminist quiet. And if you know, recently, Nargawala got released on the transporting a child across state lines for sexual activity or something. She is scot-free. She mutilated 100 little girls in our country and got off scot-free.
Yeah,
that's true.
Thank you for
Alan. She's a doctor, and she has her medical license still. She is still licensed to practice medicine. She lost her job because she was fired for not showing up to work, but she still has a medical license. For instance, intersex activism. These are a group of intersex activism organizations, right? Here's a group of universities. Here's politicians. I mean, a lot of these aren't filled out, but a lot of these are. Let me show you the state of California. This is where I've been really spending a lot of time, just so you guys can see this. This is a 1,200 media outlets, and this is all the information. Some of these have hundreds of emails in these. You see, this one's got like, there's so many things. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is, we have the most influential, the most powerful information on the planet. Like, nobody can debate this. Like, you could be.
I think we should even, that Cleveland Clinic thing, we should contact the media about, because that
look at really, I'm scrolling down. Do you see this? Do you guys see this? Look, I'm still scrolling. Yeah. Every one of these took me 5 to 10 minutes a piece. Every one of these. I've been doing this for over a year.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Look at this. That's 1,200 media outlets, every damn one in the whole state of California. I got Florida, the whole state of Florida. There's like 600 right here. Oregon, the whole state of Oregon. Kansas, the whole state of Kansas. Nevada, Washington, Arkansas. Okay, all done. All done. And I'm not proud. I mean, it's not all of them, but it's not all the states, but that's a huge amount. Like, this is a huge amount of information. I mean, we could do all this. Pediatricians, OBGYNs. I really think those are the least ones that I'm concerned about contacting them. But there's a ton of stuff. Let me show you some other ones that I've been doing. Activists, others. Here's all these different organizations. Here's websites that I haven't even gone to yet and filled out and contacted. Websites I haven't even finished. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Radio
feminists.
Talk would be big.
Yeah, Radio Talk. I mean, well, we got tons of Radio Talk.
You got to make contact with them and try to get on these different shows.
Yeah. So, I mean, even just right here, there's a bunch of different stuff, like links. Let's see what else is here. We got.
So, Daniel.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to be able to see. I don't know how you do it with a spreadsheet, because spreadsheets are great for flat databases, but not for relative databases or relational databases. Is like to have a campaign, like, okay, we're going to reach out to as many people as we can about a particular topic, like what happened in Michigan, for example, or what's happening right now with the circumcision as fraud, or whatever. We want to notify this group of people about this thing. It'd be kind of nice to have a way to track who has contacted who. I don't know. That's really important.
That's a good question.
I don't know whether we try to do a wide thing, like
very good
only one person that contacts one contact, or
well, let me show you.
Who cares whether we have 3 or 4 people contact one contact? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't want to flood them.
Maybe we do.
Let me pull up the original database. Hold on, let me just show you. But no, we do keep track of this. Let me show you where. There's a couple different ways that we're going to keep track of this. And right now, the main one is just off to the right here. You see this contact notes right here? So this is, let me show you a little system to keep track of the campaigns and everything that we've sent out. So here's a campaign key at the top here. So I'm glad you kind of asked that. Okay, so here's the campaign key, right? So here's a campaign. like I said, these lists have not been sent out to. Okay, so I have not sent out massive campaigns to these lists yet. So, although some of them have, because the Florida ones were done. We've been doing campaigns. So if you wonder what we've been doing, let me just show you what we've been doing. These are the campaigns we've done. On the MIME library, if you go to the MIME library, you're going to see a success, NLI success page. And this is where just images of some of the articles we have been involved with being printed. Not that we were the only reason they were printed, but these are people that we contacted and they printed an article. Okay, and we had a massive increase in the number of articles printed when we did this campaign of the groups that were doing this, right? So here's the campaign, here's examples of the database that we used. Here's the emails that we sent out. Here's some of the arguments that we made in the emails actually printed in the actual published results, which guarantee that we had an influence on this article being printed. So we contacted all of these people. Okay, still keep going. Okay, so here you go, commercial appeal, the Daily Helmsman, Fox 13. I'm not saying that we were the only reason these were printed, but when we did do this, there was a lot more printed than was ever printed in the human history of these groups. Okay, so I would say we definitely had an influence on that. I talked to reporters who told me that they were going to show up. I talked to reporters who had never heard of the protest before we contacted them. So I know they weren't contacted before we contacted them. So that's why it's important that we, organize this rather than just sending random, protests to these people. What I envision is for all of Intactivism is that every time an Intactivist goes out from now on, that every reporter that is within the potential of that, maybe even the entire state, not just this county or the city, but maybe that entire state gets an email. And if we do what I call seasoning the list, okay, I had a friend who was a massage therapist, and she said when her clients she'd worked with them a long time, she would say they developed a seasoned body, which means that they would, if you're a massage therapist, you start working on somebody that's really tight, they have a lot of knots. But if you work on them over time, they start to get more pliability in their tissues. You start to get rid of those trigger points. So she would say they were a seasoned body, right? So what I want is a seasoned list. And the seasoned list would be a group of these campaigns that are already sent out. And let me pull up the campaigns that I'm talking about. Like we have a whole list of campaigns that I want to share with you real quick. Let me just share that with you. Okay, so here's the campaigns right now. Okay, so the campaign, the different ideas of campaigns. Again, we're still in the very infancy of this, right? But I'm getting to the stage where I'm really starting to be like, I need to get this done. Like I've been putting all this time into this database development, and I knew if I didn't have that, there was kind of like, I really wanted to make an explosion in that pond. I really wanted to explode the dynamite in a fashion. So I wanted to have the database that breeds the power. So in sales, if I don't have a list, if I don't have a customer in front of me, I could have the greatest sales talk in the world. I'm not going to sell shit, right? I need to have the person. So I created the list, but now I'm having this sense of urgency, whereas I need to have these databases being sent out. I need to have these campaigns being sent out because that's the whole point of this, right? I need to step into phase 2. I need to get into phase 3 of sending this stuff. Anyways, here's where we're at. We're gonna start with the FGM campaign. This is gonna go out to everybody on the list that we have. Every person, that whole database is gonna get this whole same group of information, okay? So the FGM campaign, this is what we're starting with right now. We got the first email, which is on that you just saw it on my blog, right? You just saw that on my blog. This one right here is that one, right? American doctors get away with female genital mutilation, feminists quiet, right? That's the clickbait for the first one. Okay, so then we have the negative effects of FGM. I'm writing the campaign for this right now. Sexual damage, less pleasurable, painful sex, difficulty during childbirth, life harm, psychological harm, loss of control over one's own body, and research. Now, when I'm writing these, I'm including language that breaks through the barriers a little bit. If you read over, I just had a debate online with whether or not we should be talking to FGM activists. My theory is yes, we need to be saying that we need to be approaching FGM activists. Here's why. FGM activists are utilizing American myths on benefits of MGM to say that FGM is different, to separate FGM from MGM. They're utilizing these myths justifying MGM. Now, when you realize and you unpackage these myths, you realize they're just ridiculous. But by FGM giving credit to MGM myths, they are creating their own retractors. They're giving power to the people that in the future will come to them and say, well, it's really not as bad as you're saying it is, because compared to MGM, it's even less tissue, it's less painful. So I don't understand how you're saying this. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, those FGM activists, I think, are people that we need to be approaching, and they need to understand this. So this is approaching it. Now, when you look at when you read their stuff, when you go on an FGM website, it's going to say almost every single time, FGM has no medical benefits. Okay, why are they saying that? They're assuming that MGM has medical benefits, right? That's why they're saying it, that FGM has no medical benefits. So what we're doing is we're utilizing the same language in our campaigns. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm saying things like instead of saying all children, I'm saying children should be protected from cultural harm or things that are damaging them, whether or not it's religious or cultural. Okay, children should be protected from things that harm them. And then I say FGM is so bad because of these things. So you kind of see what I'm saying. You kind of see where I'm going with it. I'm utilizing leading language that by the end of this FGM campaign, I'm associating with them both. So we say FGM and why it's done. So negative effects of FGM and why it's done. Well, if we say, hey, most often this is done by the women of the groups, and the women are doing the social shaming. The women are the ones that are perpetuating a lot of this happening in their own societies. And we're kind of breaking through that myth, because why are we allowed to say that? The reason why is because we're going to say, if we don't understand the reasons why we're doing it, how are we going to ever end it? That's the first thing. Then in the middle of that thing, you bring that down to saying, you know what I'm saying? Then you start to add those things in, and you're breaking down their argument at the same time building ours, right? Then you go into the different types of FGM. And when you say this, of course, you know that all types of FGM are harmful, that the ritual nick is a violation of that child's rights, that no adult has the right to penetrate a child's genitals of any form, of any degree. You see what I'm saying? You see how this leads into MGM.
I would add, Daniel, a little bit of clickbait, because people see this and be like, I know about this already. So if we add something like what you didn't know about, or what you haven't heard about FGM, something like that, something clickbaity.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Thank you, Justin. That's a good point right there. Let's change it. So what's a good topic? What's a good title for this? Negative effects of FGM, or it's worse than you thought. FGM, female genital mutilation. How about something like that?
Yeah. Or why women continue FGM, or any kind of clickbaity thing that'll get their attention. So it's not like they think I already know this. You know what I mean?
These are things like I haven't even. These are things that.
FGM. How did it come to America? How did it become illegal? Or how did FGM become legal again in the United States?
If you don't understand how FGM continues, how will we protect the over 500,000 American girls in danger of being genitally mutilated?
Or maybe new law allows 500,000 American girls to be genitally mutilated. That would be good clickbaity.
Well, see, this one right here, I want to try to stick with this topic. So the topic here is, why is FGM continued? How is it? So this is a good topic, because I think if you don't understand how FGM continues, I'm actually putting the reason in there. So you have to kind of, anyways, I mean, we could adjust that if you guys want to, but.
No, I think all this is great. Like you say, it's new. It could all be tweaked, but I think it's amazing what you've done here. It's great.
Yeah. So then, okay. So that's just FGM. Then there's anatomy, structure, and function video, that we could go into. This is the histology. So this is where I had a debate whether or not, if you watch Ron Goldman's psychological review of how to change Intactivism, he mentions that the psychological pain issue is one of the most influential issues. But then again, me as a man, like knowing the anatomy, and then again, how do you understand the pain if you don't understand the anatomy? So last time we talked about this, people said, well, let's do the anatomy, structure, and function, because I mean, we can use a lot of clickbait titles with this one when we get to that stage. We're not there yet, but I don't really want to write these things in stone yet. But we get to that stage, we can use a lot of clickbait titles like "The Last Frontier in Anatomy," what the world doesn't know about male genitals, you know?
Danny, I would put this, like, the clickbaity stuff about the anatomy and structures, like, comparing, the frenulum and the rigid band to, it's not comparable exactly, of course, but you know what I mean? Like using words like male G-spot. How is it that Americans allow male G-spot to be amputated? That kind of clickbaity stuff will get people to actually click on it and read about it. Because they'll be like, wait a second.
How do Americans let doctors cut off the most sensitive part? Or what? How did you say the G-spot?
You say the male G-spot, yeah, or the male F-spot, or I've always tried to figure out the best way to say it, because if you say the male clitoris, they're gonna be like, that's not anatomically correct. These people don't know what they're talking. But something like the male G-spot or F-spot, or
I like ones that are like
primary,
it's not the wrapper, it's the
orgasmic
candy.
trigger.
I like the one, it's not the wrapper, it's the candy. That's kind of a cool one. Anyways, so anatomy, structure, and function. Do you guys think that's the best as the second, or would you go with the third? Would you do psychology next or anatomy, structure, and function?
I would do the anatomy like first. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is, here's what I'm thinking. We do the Fgm campaign. We do the anatomy, structure, and function campaign. We do the psychological effects campaign, the history, and the medical excuses. And then that I would be considered a seasoned list. And here's the deal. At the end of each one of these, at the end of the Fgm campaign, we're going to be calling these people. Now, we may not be able to call 1,200 people, but we're going to be calling them. And like I said, we're going to be asking them to have, if people haven't read the things, we're going to ask them to read. We're going to ask them, hey, if you haven't, we're going to ask them to look in their spam box. We might be getting spammed. We're going to be gathering that information. And once they get to that stage, like, we're going to have a system to teach the tele-intactivists. Here's the deal with tele-intactivists. So what you want with this is we need to make sure that they have all the knowledge, because when you're contacting someone through voice, that person has the opportunity to ask any question. You have to be able to answer that question quickly with authority. So we really want to make sure the tele-intactivists are extremely educated, and they have at least a fundamental baseline knowledge of this. And I can, within a couple hours, give somebody all the information that they need to be able to, I think, do that. But anyways, at the end of that campaign, we're going to call these people and stuff like that. And so that's going to be kind of the phases of campaigns and how it works.
It'd be cool to have like if we give out cards to people, to have like a helpline number if they ever, are running into problems, if they're pregnant and they're having problems with family members, they can call and be like, yeah, what's the correct answer to this? This is what they're saying to me. How do I respond? Or can you help me talk to them? Because I think that's, people who don't want to do it are under so much pressure. They'll need somebody kind of like, at least on the phone where they can, have them speak for them and explain it.
What we could do is, like I said, once we have, and this is why we got to get this series of educational emails out, because once we have this series of educational emails, then all the Intactivists go through that. Once you've gone through that, and you can answer some basic questions at the end, kind of like just like you're taking a college course or a high school course, really, because it's going to be A, B, C, D, E. And once they've scored high enough, and I feel confident, and then I'll do some scenarios. We'll do some back and forth scenario practicing. So nobody that's going to do the Intactivism is going to be set up, just going to be like, hey, go ahead and go out. I mean, unless someone like yourself or John Atkins, or actually all four of you here, I would feel completely confident giving you a phone and saying, go to, here's a list of people, call them, all of you here. But when I'm talking about new Intactivists, of course, I want to make sure that they have that. I don't want anybody that's listening to this later in the video on YouTube is going to be like, oh, that's not for me. No, we're going to make sure that everything that you need to know. We're going to do scenario planning. We're going to practice this. So anybody that does this with us is going to have all that information. They're not going to be, left out to dry. And that's the whole point, is like you're saying, I'm glad you bring this up, because we want to be able to answer those questions. First, so I'll make sure that the tele-intactivism knows how to answer any of the questions. And really, that's it. It's really simple. And I know what I was going to say. So I already have some of these recorded conversations that I've had with reporters and other people. I do have one that's kind of like my angry troll doctor tape that's on my YouTube channel at NLI, Next Level Intactivism on YouTube, and you can go watch that. It's I go pretty hard on a doctor who's a cutter, and he stayed with me the whole time, and it was a pretty cool conversation. But that was I don't really expect mother intactivists to do that. What I want them to do is focus on educating people, not going after doctors. So it's kind of like a bad example, but in that video, there's a lot of stuff I talk about that you can use. Also, like I said, I've had conversations with reporters where they'll just sit there and listen, and like I'm like going off about certain aspects of the subject. In like, for instance, we have strategies. So if you run out of something to say, okay, well, I use my 5 fingers. Okay, well, I've got anatomy. Okay, I've got psychology, right? I've got medical. I've got history. I can just cycle through my fingers. If I run out of something to say, I'm going to pick one out of something. Okay, well, you know how this started? This was an anti-masturbation campaign in the 1890s. It was thought that sin caused diseases. This is actually predates germ theory. This is how this was started. You know what I'm saying? And you can just go off on this stuff. And okay, the next thing, psychology. Okay, well, if you've read about adverse childhood experiences by the recent Harvard studies of adverse childhood experiences, show that this trauma, early lifehood trauma, the early in life the trauma happens, the more ingrained that trauma becomes in the actual epigenome of the child. So we're actually affecting the life of that child by creating trauma in there. You see what I'm saying? So you should not run out of things to say. You should always have a backup that, you know what I mean? So we're going to plan all these things. We're going to have scripts. We're going to, for instance, some people might not feel comfortable saying the things that I feel comfortable saying, or they may have a different focus or a different feeling on certain things. Well, if that phone call is not being made, it's not going to be made, right? So I have so many phone numbers that need to be called. I'm not going to run out of phone calls, numbers to call. So right now we're at that stage where, we have the database, we have these huge numbers of database already ready. It's there for us. It's ready to use. Let's start, getting it up and running. And that's why I needed you guys. That's why I created this program. That's why I reached out for Intactivists. That's why I'm, creating these videos so that people can come online and say, you know what, we have options now. People are, organizing this. I don't really have to commit my whole life to this. I don't have to be stuck, having conversations on Facebook with low life people that I don't want to, I don't have to have a bad feeling every time I'm done with my Intactivism, where you get done with your Intactivism and you like feel uplifted and you feel like you made a difference and that you had influence. That's the type of Intactivism I want to do. And that's the type of Intactivism I think is more powerful than, again, going to a street corner and protesting. But if we go to street corner and protest, right, like, let's get the media there. Let's make sure that we maximize our potential, okay? Because if your whole baby is holding a booth at some parenting group in Pittsburgh, I want all the media knowing that your whole baby's there doing it in Pittsburgh, right? I want all the media outlets to know this stuff. And then when we gather that information for whatever that event that's happening, then that information is for the future. And then we can start sending campaigns to that person, right? So, we can continue developing databases. We can continue sending campaigns. We can continue creating new outlets for other Intactivists, like organizing, for instance. Some people may not be good at developing databases. And well, if we can't develop the database, then we're not going to have the database to run to. Well, they need something to do. Well, maybe they can help me with organizing the, print, or, there's so many other things that we can be doing. What I envision is just stimulating the conversation, getting the ideas out there, and taking it to the next level.
Daniel, with the media, we should have something pre-written that will debunk what we know they're going to write about. We know they're going to write about the AAP position statement. We can add on how that was found unethical by their own committee, their own ethics review board, and things like that. Because we need, whenever you read a story about this, they always have the same basic facts they put on there. So we can give them debunking facts so they can add it to their story, which is something that I've never seen happen yet. Because a lot of people agree with this.
It has happened, and I'm going to show it to you. And you're right, and I appreciate you bringing that up. That's really the whole purpose of the educational outreach program is to give the knowledge to the reporters so that when they're, writing articles about this, that they're not printing bogus articles, that they've done their research, that they've critically thought about this idea before printing their articles. Here's part of the email I sent out. This email is the one that got me 20 articles printed so far to date. Okay, this is the only one I sent out that got me 20 articles printed. So somebody can read this and say, oh, that's not right. There's too much stuff in there. There's a bunch of links. There's all this stuff. But whatever, it got me 20 articles printed, so it's worked so far. But this is part of the, right at the top here. Don't get it wrong if we report on this. Okay, when you target your audience, right? This is an email I targeted to reporters because I didn't write this for the average person. I would never have wrote the same email to a mother. Why? Because I would break it a lot smoother and easier to a mother or somebody I'm meeting on the street or even somebody I'm talking to online, right? But these are reporters. They're people they're going to listen to the squeaky wheel more than this person that's singing Kumbaya. Okay, so anyways, I'm challenging a reporter. Why do they become a reporter? They become a reporter because they want to make the big story, right? They want to do something. They want to create change. They want to be well known. They want to get in the spotlight. They want to break the story, right? Well, this is the story. So I'm challenging their research. I'm challenging their intelligence by saying, don't get it wrong. If you report on this, okay? Right at the top here, facts of female genital mutilation, dramatically lower sensitivity, gets that progressively worse with age. Alters stroke pattern for male orgasm, decreased orgasmic potential of partners, lifelong psychological damage to mutilated children and infants. Medical benefits are trivial post hoc lies. Adult medical foreskin problems are far more fixable with less damaging methods. Okay, you can go through the rest of them. Okay.
Yeah, that's
here's the article that WLOX printed. Okay, dramatically lowered sensitivity that gets progressively worse with age, decreased sexual functions and sensations in men, lifelong sexual damage to mutilated children and infants, rare foreskin health problems in intact males. They took my bullet points and reprinted it. Brett Johnson himself said this is the most pro-intact article he's ever read on Intactivism. We own this, brother. Like this is all we have to do. Like, this has already been successful. Like I've already created the system. The system works. We just need people doing it. That's all. That's all it is about. And the more people we get doing this, the more people we save. You know what I'm saying? Like if I get you 4 people and you 4 people get 3 more people or 2 more people and those 2 people get 1 person, that person gets 1 person, right? If I just did this all on myself and I started doing 1 phase 2 and 3 all by myself and on my lonesome, making phone calls, sending emails, I mean, it's okay, but I'm still limited in my reach. But if I can get 25 people to do this, and this is what I said on my website, I have a very bold claim on my website that if we can end, okay, let me bring you up here. Oops, about NLI. If I can get 25 volunteers, dedicated, hardcore volunteers, that means they are committed, they show up, they do this thing. We can end American medicalized genital mutilation in 5 to 8 years. I know it says 5 years, but 5 years. Okay. Why 5 years? From the date that this is fully functional, right? The reason why is because the medical establishment is so weak about this. Like they don't have anything to fall back on. They have no support, right? So if you go to my webpage here, the main page, okay, we're force multiplier. Oops, where is it? There's a page where I have the numbers. Oh, that's on my volunteer page. I'm sorry. Let me pull you my volunteer page. Okay. Okay, future babies. Oh, 9. Now this is not working. Give it a second, it'll pull up. Once this pulls up, you see I did the numbers. Okay, so if you estimated longevity of American medical child genital mutilation is approximately 20 years. If we can end American medicalized child genital mutilation in 8 years, okay, that's about 1.9 million boys are born per year. Let's say we have a steady birth rate for the next 12 years. That's 60% cut. Okay, let's say just at 60% cut. At that rate, we can save 13,880,000 babies. That will make a huge difference in our society. 13 million babies. Imagine 13 million babies not being born with psychological damage, with sexual damage, with harm done to them when they were, couldn't fight back, basically. Imagine the change in our society, and if we can do this within 5 years. So I know it's a bold claim, but I don't know. I really think that if I had people doing this, we could do this. I mean, look, I have 7 states completely done. 7 states. This will make a splash somehow, some way. It will. It just can't not, right? So if we did this with the media, if we did this with the doulas and midwives and database, and imagine we had 10 states of doulas and midwives. Imagine how many babies we would be saving every single day, having a seasoned list of midwives and doulas. Just right off the bat, we would be making massive changes. And, who cares? Even if we save 1 baby doing this, it's worth it to me. I have 9 confirmed saved babies. I know 2 more on the way. And if those babies follow their brothers, they're also going to be saved too. So I'm going to have 11 saved babies. I didn't have to do anything, and my numbers are starting to go up right now because those 2 babies are brothers. And now they're going to be intact too. Right? You see what I'm saying? So now I'm up to 11. So, and that's confirmed. Who knows? I've been doing this for 7 years. How many people have I set seeds in their mind or planted seeds who have an intact son right now, and I'll never even know? How many of all the 4 of us or 5 of us on this board right now who have done that? Like, there's babies we've saved, every one of us, that we'll never know about. But there's nothing in my life I can do more that will give me more satisfaction, more sense of accomplishment, more fulfillment than saving babies of what was done to us. So anyways, any other thoughts, ideas? You guys are bringing up some really good stuff. I really enjoy our conversations. Any other thoughts, ideas?
Hey, hi. Do you hear me?
What's up?
Hey,
What's up,
Juancho here.
Hey, Juancho, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Someone mentioned, I don't remember exactly, mentioning the G-spot, male G-spot as a hook. But recently I got blasted on Twitter by some Intactivists about it. Me and some other guy were tagged into a thread about how unscientific is to talk about a male G-spot. That
Yeah.
it's not.
The male G-spot is the prostate. Technically, that's already got a name. We need a new name for these areas that Americans don't know about.
I would say that the G-spot is just something the G-spot is just what I was talking about earlier. You're going to associate something with people already know with something they don't know, right? So what you're doing is when you're saying G-spot, they already know what a G-spot is. Everybody's heard about it, right? So when you say the male G-spot, yeah, there's Meissner corpuscles on the anal rim, and also on the there's Meissner corpuscles in the prostate gland itself. But that's not the male G-spot. The male G-spot is the frenulum in the ridge band. There is a secondary male G-spot in the so what? That's cool, but it's not the main one. Like, I would say that the thing is when people bring up this stuff, for instance, a lot of people. And this is why we're going to have the Intactivist education plan program, is because people, for instance, you get these people that are slightly educated, like the Steve Morton people. Steve Morton's a PhD. I think he runs one of those websites. I forgot what it's called. It's like pro-circumcision websites. And he claims to debunk the logic of Intactivism. And when you understand the weakness of these people's arguments, you literally blow through them. At a certain stage, when you get to something like this, you say, someone says it's not scientific. You say, look, we're talking about the middle half of a male's genitals. For you to claim that there's not sensation. Now, let's just say it's an equal sensation to every other part, which it's not, because there's been scientific studies to prove that's not. Let's just say it's equal sensation. You're still missing half. Half.
Right.
Okay,
That's a lot,
that's
yes.
a ridiculous argument. So for someone to say, oh, there's not 20,000 nerves, no one's ever proven that. Well, first off, my answer to that is, when somebody says that the 20,000, okay, I started saying the 20,000 nerves, and then I found out, okay, no one's ever actually taken done the measurement in the specific histology way.
Same.
But
Right,
okay, here's the
same.
deal with that. Who came up with that idea? That idea came from Taylor, Colden, Lockwood's histology study, where they estimated that between 20 and 60,000. Okay, these are not the people that came up with that idea were the only people that actually do histology study of the penis. Now they didn't do a complete they didn't complete the whole study of it that we need to do. We need to have this done. Of course, this should be done. It's not done. That's another example of why the Scientific Outreach Committee could be so powerful, because we don't know. We literally don't know the number of sensory end organs, of Meissner corpuscles, of Pacinian corpuscles, of Merkel cells, of free nerve endings. We don't know these, right? Like, this is the question for science. But the idea that people can debunk the basic premise of Intactivism, of our arguments of that this is removing a significant sexual function, that this is dramatically harming sensation, that this
And
is
you know
that this affects
American-
the potential of orgasm. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. That this affects the orgasm intensity is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. And then when I tell people, like, you get to a certain level of debate where you can't go below, right? When somebody says 2 + 2 is equal to 5, and you say, we're going to agree that this is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And if I agree that that's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and I count out 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2 of these plus 2 of these is equal to 4. That's our agreed upon terms. You can't really, that's a fact. That's not an argument. There's no argument about that. So if someone gets to that stage and they say, no, 2 + 2 is equal to 3. At that stage, you just start to ridicule them. You're like, come on, dude, that's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Are you serious? You really want us to believe that? That's when you pull out the social shaming, because that's at that stage, you've gone past the scientific stage. That's when you socially shame them, because these are people that are doing the same to you. They're using ridicule to you and saying, oh yeah, you don't know what you're talking. You know what I'm saying? So, come out there, respond to their debate point with common sense. Use the most basic response to them. Reframe their question as ridiculous. Oh, so you're claiming that rods and cones don't see, or taste buds don't taste, because the skin of your penis is a sense organ, and the nerves in there are organized and put on there and controlled by the skin. So when you remove the skin, you remove those nerves. So if I remove one eyeball, I'm removing rods and cones. For instance, people say there's never been a study that showed that harms a sensation or quality sensation. Well, you can respond as, if you remove one eyeball, you can still see an A on the opposite wall, but it doesn't mean you can see the small a, right? You know what I'm saying? So, there's just ways of responding to these to blow them out of the water. And then some of these people are just going to so ridiculous that there's not even be worth to argue about. And another, we did talk about this last time. Justin gave some really good debate points on this in our last one. I'm gonna actually, that was 2 times ago. Justin, we need to have you redo that, because I didn't have a recording of that. But anyways, yeah. So any other questions on that, Juancho? If you go to
well,
I was going to say, if you have a problem with that, I always make like a screenshot of Cosmopolitan magazine, and they'll be talking about the areas of the male penis that are the most sensitive, and they'll mention the frenulum, and if the man's intact. So take a screenshot of that and be like, excuse me, Cosmo says the frenulum is the most sensitive part. So what if a man doesn't have a frenulum? Hasn't he lost something? And they will describe it as like the booty bullseye and the male G spot or the male F spot. So I always have those kind of screenshots available too. Use Cosmopolitan against them, because everybody reads Cosmo. Well, young girls do. The 18 to 25-year-olds.
Recently on Twitter, I had a guy that was saying that that the weakness in Dr. Sorrell's study was that they didn't keep track of the age. So they didn't have equal ages measurements of intact to mutilated compared to the age appropriate. And
yesterday, I heard that yesterday.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous statement. First off, okay, see, here's the thing. This is why the Educational Intactivist program is so important, because if you know that Taylor, Cold, and Lockwood's histology studies directly correlated with Dr. Sorrell's, in addition to the fact that, because what I said on there, my response is it's absolutely ludicrous to claim that half the surface area from the middle of your genitals doesn't have sensation. That's crazy. That's ludicrous. So right off the bat, you're losing, like we said earlier. I already said that kind of earlier. But so you just kind of blow them out of the water that way. But if you understand that, hey, Dr. Taylor, Cold, and Lockwood, their studies match it. And then if you understand that Jennifer Bozzio's study actually verified it, you know, it's kind of like I mean, those are all weak arguments. People can have weak arguments all they want, and you're going to hear those. And at some point, at some stage, try not to internalize it. And I'm talking for my own self. This is from my own experiences. I internalize this shit and I get mad about it. And I'm like, how could you dare say that? That's ridiculous. And I'm like, why am I letting this moron influence my mental state? And partly the trauma of this and being denied validation, being denied the basic human respect, being denied the you know, that increases the trauma and it makes it worse and it makes it frustrating. And also we are trauma damaged, right? So we have trauma in our lives that cause us to be more reactive and more likely to respond negative ways to trauma or to things. So anyways, what I tell people is just try not to internalize these things. You know, the longer you do this, you know, you get to a stage where you kind of develop some tougher skin, but I don't even want you to develop tougher skin. I want you to maintain that heart that you have that puts you in this, you know what I mean? And somewhat shield yourself and avoid those things from letting them take personal, making them internalize them, I guess you could say, or letting them harm you in any sort of way. Because there's idiots out there and they're just going to say the dumbest, most hideous things. Well, I'm gonna do here real quick is I'm gonna close out the video. So I'm gonna end the video real quick. I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, we have these meetings every Monday night on Zoom, and I'll include the information below in the description. Please do me a favor and share this video. Tell other people about this. We need more people involved in this. The more people we get, the more babies we're going to save. I think this is one of the most powerful things in Intactivism that's currently going on, especially this bypasses the block that we have with reaching large groups of people with protesting, because we just don't have those options like we used to. And who knows when there's going to come back online. This does avoid the problems of burnout, of mental burnout. Like I said, when you're talking to educated, aware people, there are going to be a lot better. There's gonna be a lot easier conversations to have. They're a lot more influential. They're more powerful. They're more fun. They're less they're less draining on you. And so I think if we start calling doulas, and we've seasoned the list with sending them campaigns, and by the third campaign, I think we're going to have a lot of we're going to start to see the influence. That in itself is going to give you the desire to continue that. You know what I mean? It's going to give you the motivation to make the phone calls, to develop the databases, to spend your time volunteering. Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.